What is up, ducks? Quack quack. Welcome to K-Drama Deep Dive, where we dive deeper into the hottest K-dramas. On this episode, we're going to deep dive into Itaewon Class, originally based on the webtoon series and is a current mega hit in Korea and worldwide through Netflix. Today, we're going to talk about the certain themes and scenes within the drama that might be interesting to non-Koreans. Now, these will be today's topics about K-drama Itaewon Class. Also, regarding life and business in Itaewon, I've interviewed special guests who actually have experience in that field, so look forward to that. Let's leave the sensitive topics to the end and start with some general background knowledge. First, let's talk about the drama's background, Itaewon itself. Now, people who haven't been to Seoul or Korea might not know anything about Itaewon, so I'm gonna assume that you guys have zero knowledge about it. Well, here I am in front of the actual filming sites of the drama, which proves that the place actually exists. Itaewon is one of the most popular districts in Seoul, probably equivalent to Gangnam and Hongdae. Is it really that international like it is in the drama though? Yes, Itaewon boasts many pubs, clubs, and cuisines that vary in style from
American, Indian, Pakistani, Turkish, Southeast Asian, Spanish, Mexican, German, Italian, French,
and more. It's known that approximately 20% of the whole residents in this area are foreigners. On a Friday or Saturday night, I'd say that more than 30% of the whole population there are foreigners. Also, most of the embassies are located in this area. It also has custom retailers that sell big-size clothes above 2x large that cannot be found anywhere else in Korea. Then why is it so international? It's mainly because of the US troops that were stationed there. Right next to Itaewon is the Yongsan US military base. The US occupied the military base that was formerly used by the Japanese after they retreated in 1945. Also, geographically, Yongsan is in the center of Seoul and right in front of the Han River, which means it served as the entry gate to the palace and the capital city. So even in the old days, this area was populated by many non-Koreans. The Hamilton Hotel, which appears a lot in the drama, is the center and landmark of Itaewon because it's right in front of the subway station. The Halloween parties are a signature of Itaewon as well, since Koreans traditionally don't celebrate Halloween. All who wish to do flock to this area and it literally becomes a nightmare. I promised myself I'd never go back to Itaewon again on Halloween. And second, do you remember when Seroy moves his pub to a bigger one? That area is called Gyeongnidankil and it's located right next to Itaewon. But you have to go up and down a hill, walk like 10 more minutes to reach it. Also, the alley itself is an uphill, so business-wise, it's not actually the best place to do a business. However, Gyeongnidankil was an exception because suddenly hip cafes, pubs, and restaurants started popping up in this area as young business owners opened up their businesses in that area. As social media became bigger, areas like these became more popular because they were close to main districts but less crowded and quiet and also hip. After that, many other places like this, such as Hongnidankil, which is next to the Jamsil Lotte Tower, started to pop up with the same characteristics as Gyeongnidankil and the Ridankil tag name. However, the downside of these places are that once the hype dies out and hipness becomes stale, the business overall declines as well. So currently, Gyeongnidankil is pretty much dead during the weekdays and a little better in the weekends. That's why you could see the Honey Knight Pocha struggle in the drama because of the location. Also in the drama, you could see Kunsu, the second son of Changa Company, proposing to the company to buy out a whole street and make it into one of the next Gyeongnidankils and sell the buildings once the prices hit the peak before the downfall. Third, what does it take to own a business in Itaewon? How high is the rent? Also, what is it like to live in Itaewon? Let's get some answers from actual experts.
Really international and exciting. Nightlife, international and diverse, so you never get bored. Keyword, freedom. Everybody is so chilled down, open to everybody, open-minded. I feel really free. The houses are quite old compared to other residential areas. The buildings are not really in good quality. The old buildings have a long story, so that's an interesting point.
I was given the opportunity to partner up with a friend of mine, and that was when I first opened up my first bar, and now Ember is my second. Itaewon was always known as the melting pot of Korea. All the different foreigners and cultures come together. Being someone that's from America, you just naturally migrate over here. Yes. First and foremost, is language is a barrier. Following the different laws, each and every year it changes. One thing in particular about Itaewon, because it's the foreigners' melting pot, it's also a very transient part of Seoul. Most of the foreigners are teachers or military, or they're here temporarily. Like your regulars, they eventually leave. And you have to recreate that kind of comfort with each and every person. I actually relate to it a lot. obviously aspirations to have a successful business. In Itaewon, his mentality when it comes to running a business and the ethics behind it. Team is the most important thing. Who you have in place to represent your brand and your image. He's doing it the right way. Timing is everything. We want to rush everything along and see results very quickly. But when it comes to running a successful business, it takes time. A lot of hard work that goes into that. You have to build from the ground up. The approach of a business and running a franchise even, you gotta count your steps. Once you have a lot of money, it becomes a lot more easier to just make more money. Itaewon is the spot these days. It is definitely prevalent here in Itaewon. You have your big players that pretty much continue to be successful in what they do because they have the money to back them up. It's really hard to compete on that level as a small business owner, and rent sometimes becomes an issue. These days, for some reason in Itaewon, the rent continues to grow even though the economy is going down. The word on the street is trying to gentrify Itaewon. Building owners is deciding to either spike up the rent so you can't afford it anymore and they kick you out, or you just gotta pay. Think about what Gyeongnidan was at one point. Gyeongnidan was one of the hottest places to go. These days, if you go down Gyeongnidan-gil, it's changed a lot. Businesses shut down. Hopefully, fingers crossed, Itaewon Class is putting Gyeongnidan and Haebangchon and Itaewon back on the map.
And fourth, remember the #1 pub in Itaewon, Pocha, and how the evil president made his success by starting an under-the-bridge Pocha? Then what is a Pocha? Pocha is short for 포장마차, which is an old-fashioned streetcar bar. People get food like fish cakes, tteokbokki, and sundae as anju. Koreans always have to eat something while drinking, and that food is called anju. That's why food quality is really important for the pub business in Korea and in the drama. Many of these old-fashioned Pocha concepts bring nostalgia or a retro feel which appeal to all demographics. Thus, the concept has been borrowed by major big pubs in Korea, where a big pub has all kinds of small food stalls in one place. You can order whichever style of anju you want and drink as much as you want. This Pocha style pub is what you see in the drama as the Changa pub, and many similar places exist which are extremely popular in Korea among young generations. Another fun fact, weirdly enough, some of these Pocha pubs have a reputation as hunting spots, which means dudes go around tables and try to make instant matches and drink with women. Nowadays, Pochas with the sole purpose of hunting activities are popping up with technology-based systems of hunting, just like the first son Jang Gun-won proposed as an idea in the drama. However, as I said, hunting is mostly enjoyed by people in their early or mid-20s, so it wouldn't be a suitable concept for a place like Itaewon that has a relatively higher age demographic. Fifth, let's talk about huge food franchises and companies like Changa Corp. Korea is special in that it has many big food companies that have several franchises under the mother company. CJ Food would be one huge company. It has buffet franchises to cafes, Korean food, noodles, BBQ grills, Chinese, a food court business, and on. These food places owned by a huge conglomerate like CJ are usually trustworthy because they have a certain high quality standard in food, sanitation, and also have a joint point system where you can interchangeably collect and use points among other brands. Personally, when I saw Itaewon Class, Changa Corp reminded me of a specific food company in Korea called Itaewon Korea. Itaewon Korea was founded by this guy called Baek Jong-won, who started from the bottom, from scrap, managing several restaurants on his own and eventually made his whole food brand empire. Baek is now a TV celebrity and appears in all food-related shows and has his own multi-million subscriber YouTube channel as well. His company, Itaewon, has many of Korea's favorite food brands that vary from BBQs, Chinese noodles, beer pubs, bibimbap pasta, fried food, beef soup, cafes, and moreover, pochas. While all his food chains are extremely popular, his pocha brand Hanshin Pocha is a name out there in all young and busy districts where people go not to only drink but enjoy the anju. Hanshin Pocha is well known for good food and especially spicy chicken feet. And sixth, I guess many of you might have been shocked of the corporate culture in the drama on how scary it is and how the father and sons get to rule and inherit the company and owning all these multiple food brands in one company. Well, that doesn't apply only in the food business. Korea has a unique conglomerate-driven economy and the dependence on it is really high as well. There are many conglomerates like these and these companies are specifically called chaebol companies. Chaebol means a big company that is owned by a certain family and relatives that have monopoly over the market. The biggest biggest example would be Samsung, Hyundai, and LG. For example, Samsung has Samsung Electronics, who is owned by Lee Gun-hee and managed by his own son, Lee Jae-yong. And then we have Samsung CNT that has construction, fashion, hotel, resort, and theme parks. The fashion and hotel sector is managed by Lee Boo-jin, the daughter of Lee Gun-hee. And after that, there are others like Samsung Insurance, Capital Investment, Heavy Machinery, Engineering, Biologics, Food, Foundations, blah blah blah. And then there are affiliations of Samsung like Shinsegae, the biggest department store and multiplex business in Korea, and also CJ, which is the biggest food and entertainment business in Korea. These affiliation groups are technically separate from Samsung itself, but they originate from the founder of Samsung, and also the current owner families are all married to each other or have some kind of relative relationship. So it wouldn't be an understatement that Korea is basically under Samsung's control. This applies to all the other chaebol companies as well. Every big corporate is tied to each other. Thus, corporate culture is extremely family-driven and authoritative. That's why the first son usually becomes the CEO of the biggest company and the daughter would get a relatively smaller subsidiary, and the second son would get another company, and on and on. Even if the children lack work skills and efficiency like Chang Geun-won, nobody really rebuts about it due to the preformed system where all the family members own enormous portions of shares and stocks and have power. That's why this is becoming a constant problem in the Korean society because first of all, it's not fair, and second, these second and third generation chaebol kids think they're the law and go around behaving like pricks, belittling older people than them and making crimes. However, they always seem to get away. So what you saw in the drama regarding Changa and the president's attitude on how he looks down on his employees as dogs and how the son gets away with murder and stuff are actually not so off from the real society. Here and there, these incidents get spotlight on the news, and the most infamous one would be the peanut return incident when the daughter of Korean Air Cho Hyuna ordered the captain to return an already departing plane with 250 passengers in it and made a flight attendant to kneel on the floor and make her apologize and throw something at her. All out of the reason because the flight attendant didn't serve macadamia nuts in a bowl. Then Cho Hyuna made the captain and flight attendant to get off and replace them. Also, speaking in the business standpoint, it's nothing surprising to see these chaebol companies trying to steal from and buy off emerging successful small businesses. Because they have huge capital, they simply use methods that appeared in the drama to either buy a business or make them go dead. And seventh, now speaking of second gen and third generation chaebol family kids, because they come from wealthy families, all of them of course graduate Harvard and have MBAs. But not only is a high education status important for only chaebol kids, but Korea in general is extremely obsessed with education. That is why Park Se-roy in the drama always gets belittled and made it even harder for him to achieve success in that society. In Korea, 93% of students graduate high school and 70 to 80% proceed to college. Parents sacrifice most of their money and invest in private academies for their kids in order to get them into college. Also, there's a very present hierarchy in the Korean universities, and everyone aims to enter SKY, Seoul, Korea, and Yonsei. However, if you can't make it there, everyone wants to go to a university located in Seoul at least. And after that, the other big cities, and after that, even nameless ones in regional areas. Even though the nameless colleges won't really help you gain success or grant any academic value, Korean parents and the society have this mindset of you have to at least graduate college to be treated as a human being. Which is to an extent true, especially in the job market. Because of the education inflation, you won't stand a chance if you don't at least have a college education. Also, sadly, many people actually do look down upon people who haven't made it into college in society. And those people without college diplomas likely get the jobs that are least popular in the job market, which usually leads to low income or manual labor. So Park Se-roy in the drama gets expelled from high school, and people belittle him by calling him 중졸, which means middle school graduate. Being a middle school graduate and also having a criminal record in Korea means you have very limited options for a job. And in the drama, Se-roy eventually decides to go on a fishing boat. A fishing ship is considered one of the toughest and hardest jobs out there, which people all try to avoid, but because of its difficult nature, it's known that you at least get paid well. That's why people who have little options try their luck on fishing ships. Also, there are a lot of bad rumors about fishing ships in general that usually people who get abducted or criminals who have nowhere else to go end up on them because you can't escape or get caught in a boat stuck in the middle of the ocean for months. Now, it's even harder for an ex-con to get a job than a middle school graduate to get one. Every decent job in Korea requires your criminal record submitted. Oh, and the reason why you eat tofu after getting released from prison is because first, tofu is rich in nutrients, especially protein that'll help you recover, and second, it's white, so It's a ritual to wish you to live a pure and clean life like tofu. And third, usually prisons serve rice with beans mixed in it, so tofu is a cooked form of beans, and therefore you can't go back to beans. And number 8, about racism in Korea. You might have frowned a lot in the scenes regarding the character Kim Tony in Itaewon Class. In one scene, he gets kicked out of a club because of the fact that he's black and he doesn't speak English, even if he speaks Korean.
저 한국 사람인데요?
I have little experience in clubs, so I've asked around and the responses were shocking. While all the white people I asked answered that they never had any problems getting into any clubs in any areas, Black and Southeast Asian or Indian friends answered that they had experienced 입밴s in club.
입밴 당했어요.
입밴이 뭐예요? 입밴?
입밴 means entrance ban, when the security or staff doesn't let you in because of some sort of disqualification they see in you. So for example, even for me, I might get 입밴ed in certain clubs because I'm too old or I'm in a tracksuit or something. And sometimes they just kick out people who look ugly to them. But anyways, back to the racial issues, I'd have to admit that Korea still has a lot of prejudice against people of color or people who come from nations that have a lower economic status or living level than Korea. And recently, one of my black friends confessed that she couldn't enter a club because she was unable to read the menu board listed in Korean. However, I'm not that sure about Itaewon clubs because the population there is pretty diverse, so I'm sure that most of the clubs would allow everyone inside. As for more general issues in racism, you could see that even the Dambam crew members at first discriminated Kim Tony because he was black and assumed that he spoke English. When they found out that he didn't, they showed disappointment and tried to force him to learn English. And also, Isol goes on even further by saying that you're not Korean, but you're not Korean multiple times, even though Kim Tony continuously argues that he is Korean. This sadly would be another truth in the Korean society because Korea is so homogeneous, we don't actually see very much diversity around us like the US or Europe or other hot traveling spots in Asia. Thus, the word Korean to Koreans means Asian and specifically Korean ethnicity. And moreover, Koreans even distinguish Japanese and Chinese people by looks and language. So it's not like how the word American is thought of in the concept of an idea of citizenship or nationality regardless of ethnicity. Also, most Koreans usually assume that everyone white or black is probably from America and speaks fluent English. Or we usually ask, where are you from? As the first question because talking to a foreigner is pretty rare in an ordinary Korean's life. Plus, in the drama, you could see that Tony's grandma did not approve her son marrying a black woman and having Tony. International marriage is extremely rare in Korea even now, and as the grandparent generation is very, very conservative, marrying a foreigner would have come as a shock to the grandma. Also, in general, regarding multicultural families, there's always a stigma behind it because from the past, most of the multicultural families were formed out of a remote international marriage. Which basically means Korean men who could not afford to get a proper Korean wife with their own ability would reach out to agencies that mediate international marriages from countries mostly in Southeast Asia. And the agency would show pictures of each side and the wife would come to Korea and live with a likely poor guy in a not so good atmosphere. And naturally, the kids from these families would experience discrimination in schools because kids don't know any better and since they look different. However, among the younger generation, the perception towards foreigners are rapidly changing and opening up, so there is a silver lining in the future. Ninth, Hyunhee in the drama is a special character as well, and there's a scene where Keun-soo slips to the media that she's a transgender, hoping that it would damage her reputation and popularity on the cooking show. Technically speaking, Keun-soo might have made an effective move in the context of Korea. That's why his father also compliments him. And that's because Korea is still very conservative towards LGBTQ+, and the general public have a disgust against anyone related to that. So younger people might be more accepting about it, but when it gets to the 40s and above, people say really bad things about LGBTQ. Whenever a related article is on Naver, the Google of Korea, most of the comments are about how
these people are crossing the law of nature, how they're spreading HIV for their own lust and pleasure, and how they don't want their kids to get influenced by it through the media or parades and such.
So I don't know the exact reason behind this hate, but I speculate it's mostly because of the misinformation and the high Christianity rate in Korea. Thus, people like Hyunhee appearing on nationwide TV shows would definitely cause negative voices. Honestly, it would be extremely hard to get a simple waitress job in Korea if you were transgender, and I doubt that many business owners would employ a transgender employee as well. Lastly, about the age gap. One of the main themes in Itaewon Class is the love tension between Park Se-roy, Lee-seo, and Nara. However, one of Se-roy's first excuses for not accepting Lee-seo's love is age. Despite Park Se-roy seeming like a relatively open character in all aspects such as backgrounds, race, and LGBTQ issues, he stalls on specifically age issues. While I think a 10 plus year age gap would be considered rather weird or talked about in any society around the world, maybe there are some of Korea's own perspectives that add to it. This is my personal opinion and observation, but the military service aspect kicks in a lot. As you may know, Korean men have mandatory military service for 2 years, either student or working. You must finish the 2-year service before you're 30. Thus, most college students go to the military after their sophomore year in college. Once they resume to college, men are in their junior year and at the age of 24, and their female friends who entered in the same year are mostly already in the work field. So these men get to do college life with younger girls than their own age, but we have a word for these dudes back from the military and it's called 복학생. The connotation behind it is like
The dude who was separated from society for 2 years that doesn't even know how to use Instagram or hashtags and wears like he's in the 60s.
I know this is harsh, but college students are also immature after all, so a certain barrier forms between men and women in college. And in some cases, men who finish their military service and who are in their senior year try to date freshman year women, which would result in an age gap of minimum 6 to maybe max 8 years. These cases sometimes disgust women and the dude becomes a mockery within the school. So in general, people have this weird perception on old men trying to date young women. And that's what Seoi must have feared and been afraid of, even though I think it was just a petty defense mechanism excuse for himself to reject Iseo. Well, actually, if a 30-year-old guy dated a 20-year-old girl, he would be frowned upon by everyone and be called in names like 도둑놈, such as thief or predator. And also it might look weird if the owner and manager of the bar dated together. So yeah, another aspect that might kick in about age is that Korea in general is very age driven as well. Korean has strict honorifics in the language itself, and we have certain manner rules towards older people, and age is kind of like a power in Korea. So trying to figure out a 10-year age gap relationship would be very uncomfortable in various ways as well. Now that we've dived deeper into Itaewon Class background knowledge and social context, time for my personal review of the drama. First of all, I really enjoyed it because it showed a very realistic viewpoint of Korea and deals with various issues that Koreans don't usually want to show to the outer world. And at the same time, it is a motivational rags to riches revenge success story, and all the characters are pretty unique with their backgrounds and personalities. The main character Park Seo-roi is an ideal figure in our society that would honestly be hard to exist considering his traits of diligence and determination after getting deprived of education opportunity and becoming an ex-con as well. He also accepts an ex-gang member, transgender, 20-year-old sociopath girl, and a black Korean and a chaebol kid as his crew. And he doesn't get angry about all the schemes and petty obstacles he receives from his enemies, although it's extremely dirty and unfair. He's too good to be true. I know this might be random, but the character Park Seo-roi reminds me of another famous anime character, Luffy from One Piece, because both of their ultimate goal is to achieve freedom, which they define as the power to not let anybody hurt their loved ones, which is in their minds the best and most powerful. Also, they don't care about social norms and standards. They both recruit diverse members that might have shady pasts, that are minorities in society, that are freaks, or sometimes that even attempt to harm themselves. Both characters have their own journey and goal and don't try to take shortcuts, and enjoy the process, valuing people and friends as the most important thing. Both characters only know how to do the right thing, which is sometimes very reckless and inefficient, but at the end becomes a human magnet and attracts very strong allies. But because of this character and storyline, Itaewon Class became one of my favorite K-dramas up to date, which blows a certain motivation and passion inside myself as well. Anyways, that was my short commentary review. I hope you enjoyed watching Itaewon Class and this video as well. Hope this video helped you guys get a better understanding on drama and the Korean society as a whole. If it did, please support us on Patreon so we can deliver more content like this in the future as well. We'd really love to become the bridge between you guys and K content. So tell me what your thoughts were about the drama and this video in the comment section, and any further questions are welcome as well. Don't forget to subscribe, turn your notifications on, buy our merch, and I will see you guys next time in another K-drama deep dive. Bye bye!